Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
The selfie wasn't meant for me. That much was crystal clear from Julia's naked body sprawled across our Egyptian cotton sheets, the ones I'd bought her for our anniversary, with a caption that read, "Missing you already, baby." The timestamp showed yesterday, 2:47 p.m., right when I was supposed to be 300 miles away in Midland, drilling for crude oil and apparently missing my wife's afternoon entertainment. I'm Ian Carter, 41 years old, former Army engineer turned oilfield supervisor. And until this moment, I thought I was married to someone who gave a damn about our 12-year relationship. The photo had synced to our shared cloud account, which Julia had apparently forgotten about in her rush to document her infidelity. My hands trembled as I scrolled through more images. There was Brandon Lee, her so-called business partner from the PR firm, grinning like he'd won the lottery while lounging in my leather recliner. The same chair where I'd held Julia during her father's funeral 2 years ago. The same chair where we'd planned our future, back when I was naive enough to think we had one. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered, sitting in my company trailer in the middle of nowhere, Texas. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was making more money than I'd ever dreamed of, pulling in $210,000 a year supervising drilling operations, while my wife was back home playing house with some gym rat pretty boy who drove a Mercedes and probably couldn't change his own oil. The worst part? Julia had refused to come with me to Midland. "I won't sacrifice my lifestyle for your oil field career," she'd declared 6 months ago, standing in our Dallas kitchen with her arms crossed like she was making some noble stand. "My work is here. My friends are here. Figure it out, Ian." So I figured it out, all right. I figured out that she wanted me gone so she could turn our marriage into her personal playground. My phone buzzed. A text from Omar, my drilling foreman and the closest thing I had to a friend out here. "Boss, we're ready for the next section whenever you are. Everything okay?" Everything was definitely not okay. But Omar didn't need to know that. Not yet. "Be right there," I typed back. Then took a screenshot of Julia's little photo gallery. Evidence. The Army had taught me to document everything, and old habits die hard. I'd been gone for 6 months, coming home every other weekend like some kind of visiting uncle in my own house. Julia had seemed distant during my visits, always busy with work events and girls' nights. I'd chalked it up to the adjustment period, figuring she'd eventually warm up to the financial benefits of my new position. The company had set me up in a luxury apartment, covered all my expenses, and I was banking almost everything I made. But now I understood why she'd been so eager to see me leave every Sunday night. Brandon probably had a standing reservation in my bed. The trailer door opened, and Omar stuck his weathered face inside. "Boss, the crew's getting antsy." Omar Rodriguez was 53, built like a tree stump, and had been working oil rigs since before I was old enough to drink. "You look like someone stole your dog." Something like that. I showed him the phone screen. "My wife's been keeping herself busy while I'm out here making us rich." Omar whistled low. "That's rough, brother. What are you going to do about it?" That was the question, wasn't it? The old Ian might have driven straight home, confronted them, and ended up looking like the crazy, jealous husband. The old Ian might have called a lawyer and filed for divorce, splitting everything down the middle and walking away with his dignity intact. But 6 months of 12-hour days in the oil patch had changed me. The work was brutal, the crew was rough, and I'd learned to think like a wildcatter, patient, calculating, and ruthless when it came time to strike. "I'm going to be smart about it," I said finally. "Julia wants to play games? Fine. But she's about to learn that I've gotten very good at playing games out here." Omar grinned. "Now you're talking. What do you need?" "Time to think, and maybe some advice from someone who's been through a messy divorce." "Brother, you came to the right place. My ex-wife tried to take me for everything I had back in '98. By the time I was done with her, she was lucky to keep her car. We spent the next hour talking strategy while the crew prepped the next drilling section. Omar had a devious mind when it came to revenge, probably from dealing with crooked contractors and backstabbing supervisors for 3 decades. By the time we finished, I had the skeleton of a plan that would make Julia's little affair look like a Sunday school picnic. The key was patience. Julia thought I was just some dumb roughneck who'd stumbled into a good-paying job. She had no idea that my engineering background, combined with my military training and 6 months of learning how to outthink and outmaneuver some of the craftiest people in Texas, had turned me into someone she wouldn't recognize. I pulled up Julia's contact information and started typing. "Hey, beautiful. Missing you too. Thinking about coming home early this weekend. Maybe we can spend some quality time together. Her response came back in minutes. Oh, that sounds wonderful, but I have that big client event Saturday night. Maybe next weekend would be better? Of course she did. I'd bet money that Brandon had plans for Saturday night, probably involving my house, my bed, and my wife. Mm. The house was dark except for our bedroom window, where I could see the flicker of candlelight. Classy. Instead of storming in like some cliched wronged husband, I parked down the street and settled in to wait. The army had taught me the value of reconnaissance, and Omar had reminded me that the best revenge required evidence. Lots of it. I pulled out my phone and started recording video as Brandon's silhouette appeared in the bedroom window, shirtless and obviously comfortable in my house. A few minutes later, Julia joined him, wearing the silk robe I'd bought her last Christmas. Perfect, I whispered, making sure to capture clear footage of both of them. Keep it up, you two. And they obliged me for another 20 minutes before the lights went out. I waited another hour, documenting the timeline, before driving to a hotel for the night. No point in confronting them yet. I had bigger plans brewing. Saturday morning, I called Julia from the hotel. Good morning, sweetheart. How was your night? Oh, quiet evening at home. Watched some Netflix and went to bed early. How's the drilling going? The lie rolled off her tongue so smoothly that I almost admired her skill. Almost. Great. Actually, I've got some news. The company's giving me a bonus for bringing this well in ahead of schedule. $50,000. Silence. Then, really? That's wonderful, Ian. We could use that money for the kitchen renovation. As if she'd contributed anything to earning it, besides spreading her legs for her boyfriend. Actually, I was thinking we should talk about our finances when I get home. Maybe it's time to make some changes. What kind of changes? Her voice had shifted, becoming more cautious. Just some ideas I've been having. Nothing to worry about. Hey, have fun at your client event tonight. What's the company again? Another pause. Meridian Holdings. It's a big account. I was already Googling Meridian Holdings. No events. Listed on their website. No social media posts about any Saturday night functions. Julia was getting sloppy, which would make my job easier. Sounds important. I'll let you get ready. Love you too. I hung up and immediately called my bank. Time to start moving pieces on the chessboard. Yes, I need to make some changes to my accounts, I told the customer service representative. I want to remove my wife's access to our joint checking and savings accounts. Temporarily, for security reasons. It took 3 phone calls and some creative explanations. But by noon, Julia's debit cards would start declining. I also moved the bulk of our savings into a new account in my name only, leaving just enough in the joint account to avoid triggering any automatic overdraft alerts. Next, I called our mortgage company and credit card companies, adding fraud alerts to all our accounts. Nothing that would cause immediate problems, but enough to create friction if Julia tried to make any major financial moves. Then I drove to our neighborhood and parked where I could watch our house. Brandon's Mercedes arrived at 2 p.m., right on schedule. I took more photos and video, building my evidence file. At 6 p.m., I watched them leave together, Julia wearing a black cocktail dress that I'd never seen before. They were probably headed to dinner before whatever client event she'd invented. I followed them at a distance, my phone recording everything. Went to Cafe Pacific, an upscale restaurant in Highland Park. I parked across the street and used my phone's zoom to capture them holding hands across the table, feeding each other dessert, and generally acting like a couple on their anniversary. The footage was crystal clear, time-stamped, and absolutely damning. After dinner, they went back to our house. I gave them an hour to get comfortable, then made my move. I used my key to enter through the front door, making sure to be as quiet as possible. The sound of Julia's laughter drifted down from our bedroom, followed by Brandon's voice saying something about your husband's expensive taste in wine. They were drinking the bottle of Dom Perignon I'd been saving for our anniversary. I crept up the stairs, my phone recording audio as their conversation became clearer. I still can't believe he fell for that oil field job, Julia was saying. $50,000 bonus, my ass. He's probably making minimum wage and too embarrassed to admit it. As long as he stays gone, I don't care what he makes, Brandon replied. Though I have to admit, I'm getting attached to this lifestyle. Think he'd notice if I moved in permanently? They both laughed. Julia's laugh, the same one that used to make my heart skip, now sounded like nails on a chalkboard. Give it a few more months, Julia said. I'll file for divorce and take half of everything. Then we can be together without all this sneaking around. What if he fights it? Please. Ian's too nice for his own good. He'll probably apologize for not being a better husband and hand over the keys on his way out. That's when I decided to make my entrance. I walked into the bedroom doorway and cleared my throat. Sorry to interrupt, but I think there's been some confusion about my earning potential. Julia screamed and grabbed the sheet to cover herself. Brandon, to his credit, didn't scream, but he did jump so hard that he fell off the bed and landed on his ass on my hardwood floor. Ian, what are you doing here? Julia's face had gone white. I live here, remember? Though apparently, I'm not the only one who thinks so. I looked at Brandon, who was scrambling to find his underwear. Nice to finally meet you in person, Brandon. I've heard so much about you. This isn't what it looks like, Julia started. But I held up my hand. Please don't insult my intelligence. I've been watching you two for hours. Great choice on the restaurant, by the way. The lighting was perfect for video. Brandon found his boxers and stood up, trying to look dignified. Look, man, I can explain. No need. I understand completely. My wife told you I was some kind of broke loser working a dead-end job, so you figured you'd help yourself to my house, my bed, and my champagne. The thing is, Brandon, Julia's not very good with numbers. I pulled out my phone and showed them both my latest bank statement. See, I'm actually making $210,000 a year, plus bonuses. The company covers all my living expenses, so I'm banking about $15,000 a month. But don't worry, you won't have to feel guilty about spending my money much longer. Julia's eyes widened as she saw the numbers. Ian, I can explain everything. I'm sure you can. But here's the thing. I don't want to hear it. What I want is for Romeo here to get dressed and get out of my house, now. Brandon was pulling on his pants, moving faster than I'd seen him move in any of the surveillance footage. We should talk about this like adults. We should, I agreed. But first, you should know that I've already sent copies of tonight's video to your wife. Brandon froze. What? Naomi, right? Lovely woman. I found her contact information on your company's website. She seemed very interested in seeing what her husband does for fun on Saturday nights. The color drained from Brandon's face. You didn't. I showed him my phone screen, displaying a sent message with video attachments. Oh, I did. She should be getting them right about now. As if on cue, Brandon's phone started ringing. He looked at the screen and visibly flinched. Naomi was calling. You might want to take that, I suggested. She's probably got some questions. Brandon grabbed his shirt and shoes and ran for the door without another word. I heard his Mercedes start up and screech out of the driveway like he was fleeing a crime scene. Which, in a way, he was. Julia was sitting on the bed, still clutching the sheet, tears streaming down her face. Ian, please, we need to talk about this. We do, I agreed. But not tonight. Tonight, I'm going to sleep in the guest room, and you're going to think about how much your little affair is going to cost you. Tomorrow,
Your intern filed this, then withdrew it. What did you promise her?
It was consensual.
She's 23 years old!
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
we'll start discussing the details. I turned to leave, then paused at the doorway. Oh, and Julia? You might want to check your debit cards. I made some security changes to our accounts today. Wouldn't want anyone unauthorized getting access to my money. The look of panic that crossed her face was almost worth the 6 months of loneliness I'd endured in Midland. A Sunday morning arrived, with the sound of Julia's frustrated cursing from the kitchen. I found her standing at the counter with her laptop open, frantically typing and clicking. My cards aren't working, she said without looking up, and I can't access our savings account online. Good morning to you too, sweetheart. I poured myself a cup of coffee and sat down across from her. Sleep well? Don't play games with me, Ian. What did you do to our accounts? I secured them. Seemed like the responsible thing to do, considering my wife has been lying to me for months about her extracurricular activities. Julia slammed the laptop shut. You can't just cut me off from our money. Actually, I can, especially since it's my money. You know, the money I've been earning while you've been playing house with your boyfriend. She tried a different approach, softening her voice and sitting down next to me. Ian, I know how this must look, but Brandon and it's not serious. It was just a mistake, a moment of weakness while you were gone so much. 6 months of moments of weakness? That's impressive stamina, even for you. Please, can we just talk about this rationally? I made a mistake, but we can work through this. We've been together for 12 years, 11 of which were apparently practice for your Oscar-worthy performance last night. I pulled out my phone and showed her the bank statement again. Here's what's going to happen, Julia. You're going to pack your things and move out of my house. Today. Your house. This is our house. Check the deed. My name only, remember? You insisted on keeping your maiden name and your financial independence. Congratulations, you got your wish. That was technically a lie. We were both on the deed, but Julia had never bothered to read the paperwork when we'd bought the house. Her face told me she was realizing how much she didn't know about our finances. You can't just throw me out. I have rights. You have the right to find somewhere else to sleep tonight, preferably somewhere that doesn't belong to me. My phone rang. Omar's name appeared on the screen. Excuse me, I told Julia, then answered. What's up, Omar? Boss, you're not going to believe this. That fancy boy from last night? He showed up at the drilling site this morning, asking questions about you. I sat up straighter. Brandon's in Midland? Was. I sent him packing, but not before he made some threats about ruining your career. Thought you should know. Julia was listening intently, her eyes wide with something that looked like hope. Thanks for the heads up. Did he say anything specific? Something about having connections in the oil industry and making sure you never work again. Pretty boy's got some balls, I'll give him that. Anything else? Yeah, he mentioned something about a lawsuit, harassment or some such nonsense. You want me to have the boys keep an eye out in case he comes back? I looked at Julia, who was practically vibrating with excitement at the mention of a lawsuit. That won't be necessary, but thanks. I'll handle it from here. I hung up and turned back to Julia. So Brandon thinks he's going to destroy my career? Interesting strategy. Ian, if you don't stop this revenge fantasy, you're going to lose everything. Brandon has connections in a PR firm. I'm sure the oil industry is terrified of his ability to write press releases. You don't understand. His family has money, real money. They can make your life very difficult, I laughed. Julia, 6 months ago. That might have scared me. But you know what I've learned working in the oil patch? Money talks, but results scream. And I've been delivering results. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and smiled. Speaking of results, that's my boss. Apparently, someone called the company this morning, claiming I was harassing his wife. My boss wants to meet with me tomorrow to discuss it. Julia's face lit up with vindication. See, I told you Brandon has connections. You should have thought about that before you started this war. You're right, I should have thought about it. I stood up and walked to the window. I should have thought about the fact that my boss, Jim Patterson, is a 60-year-old former Marine who doesn't like pretty boys who threaten his employees. I should have thought about the fact that the company has a zero-tolerance policy for false accusations. And I definitely should have thought about the fact that I have video evidence of Brandon trespassing in my house and sleeping with my wife. Julia's smile faded. What are you saying? I'm saying that Brandon just handed me the perfect opportunity to destroy him professionally. Jim Patterson is going to want to see proof that Brandon's accusations are false. I'll be happy to provide it. I pulled up Brandon's company website on my phone. Lee and Associates Public Relations. Nice firm. I wonder how their clients would feel about having their accounts managed by someone who makes false accusations against oil industry professionals. The energy sector is pretty tight-knit, you know. Word travels fast. You wouldn't. Watch me. I started typing an email. Let's see. Dear Mr. Patterson, regarding Brandon Lee's accusations this morning, please find attached video evidence that will clarify the situation. Mr. Lee has been having an affair with my wife and apparently believes that gives him the right to interfere with my employment. I trust you'll handle this matter appropriately. Ian, stop, please. I hit send. Too late. But don't worry, I'm sure Brandon's family money will cushion the blow when his clients start jumping ship. Julia was crying now, real tears this time, instead of the crocodile tears she'd tried earlier. Why are you doing this? I made a mistake, but destroying Brandon won't fix our marriage. You're right. Nothing will fix our marriage. But destroying Brandon will make me feel better, and honestly, that's all I care about right now. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. Hello? Is this Ian Carter? The voice was female, upset. Yes. Who's this? This is Naomi Lee, Brandon's wife. We need to talk. I looked at Julia, who had gone pale again. Of course, Mrs. Lee. What can I do for you? I want to know everything. About my husband, about your wife, about how long this has been going on. And I want to know how we're going to make them pay for what they've done to us. Julia was shaking her head frantically, mouthing no over and over. Mrs. Lee, I think that's an excellent idea. Are you free for coffee this afternoon? Yes. And Mr. Carter, bring everything you have. Photos, videos, bank records, whatever. Brandon thinks he can destroy you to protect himself, but he's about to learn that two can play that game. I look forward to meeting you, Mrs. Lee. I hung up and smiled at Julia. Looks like you and Brandon are about to discover what happens when you mess with the wrong people. Mrs. Lee sounds very motivated to get to the bottom of this. Ian, please, you have to stop this. Brandon's family will disown him when they find out he's been cheating on his wife and trying to destroy innocent people's careers. Rich families don't like scandals, Julia. It's bad for business. I stood up and headed for the door. You have until I get back from my coffee meeting to pack your things and get out. After that, I'm changing the locks. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care. Call Brandon. Maybe his wife will let you both sleep in the doghouse. As I walked out, Julia called after me. This isn't over, Ian. You can't just destroy people's lives because you're hurt. I turned back to look at her one more time. You're right, Julia. This isn't over. It's just getting started. The woman who had shared my bed for 12 years, who had promised to love and honor me, who had thrown it all away for a pretty face and a Mercedes, was about to learn that the nice guy she'd married had died somewhere in the oil fields of West Texas. What was left was someone much more dangerous. Naomi Lee was nothing like I'd expected. Where Brandon was all flash and surface charm, his wife was quietly elegant, with steel gray eyes that missed nothing. She was waiting for me at a corner table in a coffee shop downtown, a stack of papers in front of her, and an expression that could have frozen hell. Mr. Carter? She stood as I approached, extending a firm handshake. Thank you for meeting me. Thank you for calling. And please, call me Ian. Ian. She gestured to the chair across from her. I have to say, your timing was perfect. I was starting to think I was going crazy. I sat down and studied her face. How long have you suspected? 6 months. Maybe longer. She opened a folder and pulled out a stack of credit card statements. Brandon's been spending money we don't have on restaurants I've never been to, hotels when he claimed to be working late, gifts that never made it home to me. She slid the statements across the table. The amounts made me whistle. He's been living large. On my money, mostly. I'm the one with the trust fund. Brandon's family talks a big game, but they're leveraged to the hilt. The PR firm is barely breaking even. That was interesting. Julia had been impressed by Brandon's apparent wealth, but it sounded like he was just another con man with expensive taste. What changed your mind about confronting him? Naomi's smile was razor sharp. Your video. Seeing him in your house, drinking your champagne, talking about moving in permanently. That was the final straw. But what really did it was this morning. She pulled out her phone and showed me a series of text messages. Brandon called me at 6 a.m., crying about how you'd set him up, how you were trying to destroy his career over some misunderstanding. He begged me to use my family's connections to get you fired. And I told him I'd think about it. And then I made some calls. Her eyes glittered with malice. Turns out your boss, Jim Patterson, is a good friend of my father's. They served together in the Marines back in the day. I felt a chill run down my spine. Your father is Colonel Robert Harrison, retired. He runs Harrison Energy Consulting now. You might have heard of them. I had indeed heard of them. Harrison Energy was one of the biggest independent consulting firms in Texas, with contracts throughout the oil and gas industry. If Naomi's father wanted me blacklisted, I'd be lucky to get a job pumping gas. So you're going to help your husband destroy me? Oh, hell no. Naomi's laugh was genuinely amused. I'm going to help you destroy him. My father was very interested to hear about Brandon's behavior, especially the part about making false accusations against oil industry professionals. She pulled out another document. This is a copy of the complaint Brandon filed with your company this morning. Want to guess what he accused you of? I scanned the paper. Brandon claimed I had been stalking him, harassing his clients, and threatening his family. According to his statement, I was an unstable individual who posed a danger to anyone who crossed me. Creative, I admitted. Completely false, but creative. My father thought so too, especially since he's known Jim Patterson for 30 years and vouched for your character personally. Your father doesn't know me. No, but he knows your work. Harrison Energy has been tracking the Midland project you've been supervising. They're impressed with your results. Naomi leaned forward. Ian, you're not just good at your job. You're exceptional. My father was already considering trying to recruit you. This conversation was taking an unexpected turn. And now he's even more interested. Men who can handle personal crises while maintaining professional excellence are rare in any industry. She pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. But we can discuss career opportunities later. Right now, I want to focus on making my cheating husband and your lying wife pay for what they've done. I looked at the card. Harrison Energy Consulting, with Naomi's name and the title Vice President, Strategic Operations. You work for your father? I run day-to-day operations while he handles the big picture. MBA from Wharton, 10 years in energy consulting, and a very nasty streak when it comes to people who betray my trust. She smiled sweetly. Brandon has no idea what he's unleashed. What did you have in mind? Naomi opened her laptop. Brandon thinks he can use my family's money and connections to destroy you. What he doesn't realize is that I control access to both. As of this morning, his credit cards are frozen, his access to our joint accounts is suspended, and his company's contract with Harrison Energy has been terminated. Lee & Associates had a contract with your company? A very lucrative one. We hired them to handle PR for 3 major projects. That contract represented about 60% of their annual revenue. I was starting to understand why Naomi had wanted to meet. And without that contract, Brandon's firm will be bankrupt within 6 months. Sooner, if their other clients start jumping ship. She turned the laptop screen toward me. Which brings us to phase 2 of our plan. The screen showed a detailed dossier on Brandon Lee, complete with financial records, client lists, and what looked like a comprehensive background check. How did you get all this? I'm married to him, remember? I have access to everything. Naomi's expression hardened. Brandon made a critical error when he decided to go after your career. He turned this from a personal matter into a business problem, and I don't tolerate business problems. She clicked through several screens, showing me bank records, business filings, and client communications. Lee and Associates is already on thin ice financially. They've been using creative accounting to hide their cash flow problems, and Brandon's been skimming money from client accounts to fund his lifestyle. That's embezzlement. It is indeed. And once their remaining clients find out about it, along with Brandon's habit of sleeping with married women and making false accusations against industry professionals, she shrugged. Well, let's just say the PR business is built on reputation. I was beginning to appreciate Naomi's approach. Where I'd been thinking about personal revenge, she was orchestrating professional destruction. What about Julia? What about her? She's a mid-level PR executive with no real skills and a reputation that's about to become very problematic. Once word gets out about her affair with Brandon and her role in his attempt to destroy your career, she'll be unemployable in Dallas. You've thought this through. I've had 6 months to think about it. The only thing I was missing was proof and a partner who understood the stakes. Naomi closed the laptop. Brandon and Julia thought they were playing some kind of romantic game. They had no idea they were actually committing professional suicide. My phone buzzed. A text from Julia. Please come home. We need to talk. I'm sorry. I showed the message to Naomi, who laughed. Too little, too late. By tomorrow morning, everyone in Dallas PR circles will know about Julia's affair and Brandon's false accusations. Bye.